Om Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashyakritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Namah Pranavarthaya Shuddha Jnanaikamurtaye Nirmalaya Prashantaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Yamadharmaraja, starting to talk about the nature of Atma, uses words which are discouraging. That Atma that you want to know, that Atma that is Dehadi Vyatrikta, other than the Deha, that Atma that survives after the Deha is gone, that Atma which was never born cannot be bound in time or in space. That Atma which is Purana was always there. It was always a difficult thing to understand. Always to us means in time. But that is not in time. Time is in which that Atma that you want to know about, that you would ask for, that you would insisted upon, that you are not willing to give up for any kind of temptation, that Atma is Durdarsham. It is Gudam Anupravishtam, Gahvareshtam, Guhahitam, Puranam. All words which are for a sadhaka discouraging words. That is why it is said to gain this knowledge, not only should one have commitment and Shraddha, but should be able to persevere with it. It's true even for learning Sanskritam. It can be daunting learning Sanskrit Panini Vyakarana. But one has to keep at it. It will happen. And that's an assurance not given by anybody but by Shastra itself. But it is discouraging. It is something which one has to take in one's stride and continue. Not give up. Because the gains one gets is infinite. Compared to anything else, it is enormous. So if you do a cost-benefit analysis on this, all that you can do will be worthwhile. This is what Shastra tells us. So what you're looking for, what Nachiketa has been trying to understand, is that Purnatvam, which is the nature of the I. So Dharmaraja, having given him these words which can be discouraging, says you can gain this. Adhyatma Yoga Adhigamena. And when you do gain it, he says, gain what? Devam Nyatva. That Dhira Purushaha Harsha Shokau Jahati. No more Harsha, no more Shoka. Because this Atma, once you understand, is not subject to any of these things. Atma is Asanga. Shankaracharya says in Brahmajnanavali, Asangoham, Asangoham. I am not any of these things. Dharmaraja continues and Acharya expands on it, saying, how can the Dhira Purusha gain this? Tam Puranam Puratanam
Tam Puranam
Puranam
Puratanam
Puratanam
Adhyatma Yogadigamena
Adhyatma
Adhyatma
Yogadhigamena
Yebhyaha
Vishayebhyaha
Samhritya
Pratisamhritya
Chetasaha Atmani
Atmani
Samadhanam
Samadhanam
Adhyatma Yoga
Adhyatma Yogaha
Tam Atmanam, that Atma that you wanted to know about, Tam Atmanam, which is Puranam, Puratanam, which is not bound by time. That Atma, Tam Puranam, Sukshmam Atmanam. How can you gain? Adhyatma Yoga Adhigamena. Adhyatma Yoga Adhigamena, Acharya explains in some detail, but we will come back to that. Matva Devam
Devam
Atmanam
Atmanam
Dhiraha Dhiman
Dhiraha
Atma Shokau Atmanaha Atmanaha
Atmanaha
Utkarsha Apakarshayoho
Utkarsha Apakarshayoho
Bhavat Jahati.
Abhavat
Jahati.
Having said this, Ataha Durdarsha, that which is not easy to comprehend, see, perceive. That Puranam Sukshmam Atma, how can you therefore gain it? It is Adhyatma Yoga Digamena. What is Adhyatma Yoga Digamena? Vishayebhyaha Pratisamhritya.
Pratisamhritya.
Vishayebhyaha Pratisamhritya. It should be together, okay?
Vishayebhyaha
Etasa Atmani Samadhanam Adhyatma Yoga. What is Adhyatma Yoga? Vishayebhyaha Pratisamhritya. Vishayebhyaha is all the samuha of Indriya Vishaya. That means Laukika Vishaya. Those leaving them aside, showing Vairagya, that they are not the important things I'm looking for. What I'm looking for is that which is beyond all this. Beyond is a very dicey word, but that which is Atitaha, Indriya Atitaha. Those Vishayebhyaha Pratisamhritya. Giving up those things. Pratisamhritya comes from the Hru Dhatu. Hru Harane. With two Upasarga. Upasarga means prefix. One is Prati and Samyam. Sam. Rendu. This Hri Dhatu is a very peculiar Dhatu in the sense that, one of the things that happens when you use a upasarga, a prefix, against any Dhatu, some very funny thing happens. Funny in the sense that upasarga can do many things to the Dhatu meaning. It may do nothing. All the upasarga, upa is also upasarga only. Some, prati, ni, all of those will either do nothing to that, it just not change the meaning at all. Or it can enhance the meaning, make it more emphatic. Or it can completely change the meaning. Or it can even negate the meaning. All these upasargas, there are some 30 odd upasargas there. They can do all kinds of funny things with this. Therefore, the Hri Dhatu is often taken as an example to show what the upasarga can do to the Dhatu. Here we have two upasargas, pra and sam. Sam is typically showing samyak, very well done. So, pra plus sam will become chodna, giving up, which is the same meaning of hri, harane, hri harane. Samyak, you can say completely giving it up. Prati and sammachka. So against all objects of the world, not showing any interest, giving up. But there are so many, I just picked up this thing to see, and I thought I'll read it out to you. How many different meanings you can get out of upasarga alone. For example, anu plus kru becomes anuhara. That means following. Anu typically shows following. Following a particular thing is called, usually anu indicates that. Apahru, apahara. Now you know the word apaharanam. Sita apaharanam. All of us have heard. Now it's completely different meaning. Taking away by force. Apaharanam. Or abhihru. Abhiharana. Again, totally different meaning. Creating a ruckus, creating a noise is called abhihara. Now, if you add a a also to that, abhi plus a plus hra is discussion, argument, tarka, all that is called abhyaharana. Then you have abhi plus ud plus hra. Again, completely different meaning. Where the original meaning of the dhatu is harana, giving up. Here, abhi plus ud plus ha is to give. Not to give up, but to give. To offer. Then, even more interesting, abhi plus v plus a plus fr becomes to pronounce. Where is the relationship between this and that? But this is what the upasarga does. Completely alters the meaning in this case. Ava plus fr, another meaning, gaining again. Very different from the original meaning. Okay. Then you have Upahru. Again, you know in Hindi also upahara. What is upahara? Gift. Right? So that also comes the same thing. From the same Ru dhatu, you get upahara. You get samhara, you get ahara, you get all kinds of things which are different meanings. Upa plus sam plus Ru. That means to collect together. Different meaning. Now, nakara, ni plus Ru. To gather. Nir plus R, totally different meaning. To insult. Nir plus A plus R, totally different. To fast. To keep upavasa. Then pari plus R, parihara. In Tamil also is a pariharam. Parihara means, can mean the same meaning as the original dhatu, to give up, or it can also mean to curse somebody. Prahr. Again, go back to the Hindi word, prahar karna. To attack. Pratihr. Very funny meaning this one has. Pratihara. To cast an evil eye. Vihr. Different meaning. Krida karna, he says. Samhr. Samharati. Samhara, you know what samhara is. To finish something. To kill. A B plus V plus A plus R. To plan. I'm skipping all the others. Samprahr has two different meanings. To cleanse and to fight. No relationship. Anu plus Hr. Following the pattern, a parampara. So what happened? That one Hr dhatu, multiple different applications of that, meanings of that, depending upon the utsar, this thing that you prefix that you use. So here he uses the prati plus samhritya, meaning moving away from vishayebhyaha, from the laukika vishaya, towards oneself, towards the knowledge of oneself. Vishayebhyaha prati samhritya, chetasaha, the mind, antakarana, atmani samadhanam. Atmani is in the Atma. And samadhanam, one meaning for samadhanam, we know several meanings, but one meaning here which is applicable is fixing. Fixing the mind on the Atma. Moving away from all the vishayas, indriya vishaya. Moving away from all of them, fixing the mind on the Atma is called Adhyatma Yoga. Sometimes Shankaracharya will explain this like this. Adhyatma Yoga Adigamena. Adhyatma Yoga Adigama Tena. Adhyatma Yoga Adigamena. So he explains that Adhyatma Yoga is Vishayebhya Pratisamhritya Chetasa Atmani Samadhanam is Adhyatma Yoga. fixing the mind on that Atma unwaveringly. Tasya adhigamaha. Working towards that. You can say staying with it. Tasya adhigamaha. Tena. So he's brought in the Tritiya also here. Adhyatma yoga adhigama tena. That by that Adhyatma yoga or Jnana yoga, by that what happens? By that Adhyatma yoga or Jnana yoga, staying with it, fixing the mind on the Atma, he says, Devam Matva or Devam Jnatva. Gaining the knowledge of the self-effulgent, self-revealing Atma. Devam. Devam Jnatva. That Dhira Purushaha. Harsha Shokau Jahati. Why does he give up Harsha Shoka? The dvandva of joy and sorrow does not affect him at all. Now remember, this jnanam, the one with that jnanam, the pandita, still has a sharira. Sharira doesn't disappear because the person becomes jnani. Sharira continues. Therefore, it is natural to expect to have harsha and shoka. But that samatvam is maintained. In fact, that samatvam is maintained even by a person who is a jnanam aspirant and who's come to a certain point. Even he will exhibit the same samatvam. The result that he gets is what he expected. The result he gets is much less than what he expected. The result he gets is much more than what he expected, or completely different. In all conditions, that Dhira Purushaha maintains equanimity. Why? Why does he do that? Once you understand the nature of Atma and that Atma is I, that Atma is I, then what it says, this Atma, which is the basic source of everything, does not have Utkarsha, Apakarsha Yoho Abhavar. This Atma is unattached. There is no Utkarsha, there is no Apakarsha. No highs and lows for the Atma. Once you recognize that, and that you recognize that that is what the I is, and you recognize that the Dhira Purusha recognizes it as the self, not as a third person something. Generally, what happens, we say we are studying about Brahman. And to start with, study of Brahman becomes like study of any other object. It is different from I. Because you say, I am studying about Brahman. I am studying about I. That Brahman is I. That's why I equate I, Atma, Brahman, Om, everything is the same. When we start studying, we say that Atma is the source of everything, which means you recognize that there are other things, which means that I am looking up to the source as Sarvagya. as the one who creates everything. And at that time I say that Saguna Brahman, Ishvara is what created this also. Therefore, there is always a separation, I and Ishvara. That's how we start the study. But very soon you recognize that this I that I am thinking I is the body, mind, sense complex. All of them are, none of them really is I. All of them are I. I am none of them. Once that recognition dawns, they all becomes part of the Mithya Jagat. Atma, Anatma, Viveka we've been talking about. Atma kim, Anatma kim, Anatma asti va, nasti va. Is there something called Anatma? Because Atma we know is Ekameva Adviti Atma. Then is there something else? If there is something else, what is the nature of that Anatma? Atma is Satyam. What is Anatma? That which is the dependent Satyam, which means it is not Satyam really. Therefore, we give it a name. Everything other than Atma is called Mithya. And where Mithya is, Satyam is. Because Mithya cannot exist without Satyam. Mithya cannot exist without Atma, without the I. Therefore, that Dhira Purusha, Harsha Shoka Jahati, because he recognizes that Atma is all there is. There is no question of Harsha Shoka. Where is the question of any Harsha Shoka? So, by this process of Adhyatma Yoga Gamena, one gains the knowledge of the Devam, Atma, Sukshmam, Om, Brahman. And with that knowledge having been gained, there is no question of Harsha Shoka. Yamadharmaraja will bring it a little further into detail in the next mantra. Because this leaves it open. Leaves it open because the Dhira Purusha understands that I, the Atma, is not subject to Harsha Shoka. He is not subject to anything at all. There is no guna. I, the Atma, is I. It is merely Chaitanya Swarupam, not attached to anything at all. Therefore, Dharmaraja takes it up a little bit more detail because he started the Upadesha for Nachiketa and through Nachiketa to all of us. Kincha
Kincha
Samparigrihya
etat
कृत्वा
shrutva
परिगृह्य
samparigyah
Martyah
martyah
Prahrhya Dharmyam
प्रहर्ष्य
prahritya
धर्म्यम्
dharmyam
Anum Etamapya
anum etamapya
Tamodate Modaniya Gumhi Labdhva
समोदते
modaniyam
मोदनीयः
gumhi
लब्ध्वा
labdva
Vivirtagum Sadma Nachiketa Sammanye.
विवर्तगं
vivartagam
सत्यं
sammatma
केतसं
samanye.
This process that he is mentioned in the previous mantra, Adhyatma Yoga Adhigama, he takes up a little more detail in this mantra. Kincha, however, what does it say? Samartyaha That Martya is the Adhikari. The one who is the resident of the Martya Loka. Even all of us. The Martya etat shrutva. Having heard this. Heard what is that etat? This, that which I am explaining about the Atma. This jnanam that you gain, Atma Tattva Jnanam. Etat Shrutva. So first, Shravanam. Shravanam about the Atma by an Adhikari from a teacher, a guru qualified to teach about that. We've seen that earlier. Narena Varena won't work. By a teacher, he says, Samparigrihya. Again, some parigrihya, having grasped fully. How do you grasp it fully? By doing vichara. Shravanam is there and detailed contemplative thinking. Mananam. Samparigrihya. Etam anum dharmyam. This difficult to grasp jnanam, having contemplated upon it, dharmam pravarhya, etam anum apya. Having gained this knowledge of Atma Tattva, samodate, he revels, he rejoices in, he experience, not even experiences, every experience is only Brahman. He is Ananda Swarupam. He is the Ananda Swarupam because he gained that which is the source of Ananda, which is you. Modaniyagam labdhva. That which is the very source of Ananda. Hey Nachiketa, I see that you are not only just an adhikari, you are an eligible adhikari. You have exhibited all the shraddha, all the commitment, all the perseverance required for you to gain this knowledge. This Atma Tattvam, Brahma Tattvam, Moksha Jnanam, to gain this. For you, the gates of the abode are open, right in front of you. Many of us could be in the same state. We may or may not realize it, but many of us could be in the same state, ready for this knowledge. So that this is what Yamadharmaraja expands in this mantra. What? Shrutva. Having done Shravanam, Samparigrihya, and done Mananam, Vichara, who the eligible Martyaha, one who is, in fact, every one of this of people in the Jagat is eligible because you got a Manushya Sharira. But so many things block this knowledge. So many obstacles in this knowledge, to this knowledge. So, by doing vichara, samparigrihya mananam krutva dharmyam prahrya. Prahrya means to separate. Deha vyatirikta atma, you separate from deha. And that is the stage of nididhyasana. How one arrives at the fact that nothing in this jagat, including the deha, which is what I identify myself with, the individual I identify with the deha. Deha means karyakaran sanghata. The whole combination of sharira, manas, indriyani, etc., which is what I identified myself with. Separating that from the Atma, there is no physical separation, but through contemplative thinking and through nididhyasanam, we separate, we're able to identify all of these as anatma, and therefore set aside along with everything else, along with the external objects like a stone or a river or whatever else, and seeing that they, while they are all Atma, Atma is none of them. Therefore, Atma is not my body. That thinking, that nididhyasanam, leads one to understanding the nature of the Atma. And having understood that jnanam also goes, there's nothing left. Ekameva advitya Brahman is I. So the process is Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. And Nachiketa is told by Yamadharmaraja, you are ready. For you, the gates are open. It's symbolic. The gates are open to the abode of Brahman, the bhavanam of Brahman. In other words, you step through it, you are Brahman. There is no gate, there is no physical voice stepping in, but you understand that you are Brahman. Tattvamasi. Bhashyakara will expand it a little further. Etad atmatattvam
एतदात्मतत्त्वम्
yadaham vakshyami.
यदहं वक्ष्यामि
This atmatattvam, the atmatattvam that you asked for, which I will tell you, aham vakshyami, yad aham vakshyami. Etad, all the definition, the previous mantra, that Durdarsham, Gudam, etc., that Sukshma Atma, which you wanted to know about, which I am telling you now, Aham Vakshyami, that Atma Tattvam, the truth of the Atma, the truth of I, the truth of the self, which is Puranam, Ajam, Anityam, Nityam, Tat Shrutva,
तच्छ्रुत्वा
Acharya Shakashat.
Acharya Prasadat.
So, Raghunathara expands it a little bit. Shrutva, we said, is to having done Shravanam. But Shravanam, we know not any Shravanam will help. One needs a live Guru who is a Shrotriya Brahmanishta. Swamiji used to be very against trying to understand the vision of Vedanta, the nature of Atma, by listening to recorded versions of tapes. Even what we are doing is second best. What you need to do is to be able to sit with the Guru. Therefore, Acharya says, Tat Shrutva Acharya Shakashat. Acharya
Acharya
Prasadat.
Prasadat. With the grace of the Acharya. Listening directly from the Acharya. Prakashat also means, if you take the dictionary meaning, it means from the source. From the source will be what? Arsha Vidya. Sources are, for us, the source is the rishis. We say that all comes from the Prathama Guru, Dakshinamurti, who taught his 4 disciples, who in turn taught others, and so on and so forth. But really, it is the rishis, the seers, who saw this, the meaning, and gave it to us through a process of Shravanam. So, Acharya Sakashat Samyag Atma Bhavena Parigrahya.
Samyak Atma Bhavena
Atmabhavena
Parigrahya.
Parigrihya.
Having contemplated upon it and grasped it, Samyak, clearly, thoroughly, removing all doubts. Sometimes you can have doubts. Sometimes one feels one doesn't have doubt, but still a lot of uncertainty. No doubts, no uncertainties. Samyak Atma Bhavena Pratigrahya, Parigrahya. Parigrahya Upadhaya, having received. All these are Labantam, having done this. So this is a mananam. Acharya Sakashat Samyak Atma Bhavena Parigrahya Upadhaya. By whom? Martyaha
Martyaha.
Marana Dharma
Marana Dharma.
Dharmat Anapetam
Dharmat
Dharma
Anapetam.
Anapetam.
Dharmyam Prahrya.
Dharmam
Dharmyam
Praharya.
Praharya.
Atma Bhavena Parigrahya. Understand the real nature of this Atma as self. Atma Bhavena Parigrahya Upadaya Who Martyaha. Who Dharma is Maranam. Who has to, the physical body has to go. Dharmat Anapetam. Dharmat Anapetam means in line with what Veda tells us. Dharmyam, that's the meaning is prahrya. Here dharmyam is Atma. Atma prahrya. Prahrya is to separate. Having separated. So now we move into Nididhyasana. Having done Mananam, we move into Nididhyasana. Pravrahya, Acharya says, Udyamya,
Udamya.
Kritakritya,
Pratakritya.
Kritakritya, Udyamya, taking out of, separating from what? Separating the Atma from the Shariradi. Sharira Dehe.
Sharira Dehe.
Sharira
Cognitive separation of the Atma and recognizing that as the I and nothing else, Shariradehe is nididhyasanam. Pratakritya Shariradehe Anum Sukshmam
Anum
Anum
Sukshmam
Sukshmam
Etam Atmanam
Etam
Etam
Atmanam
Atmanam
Apya
Apya
Aprapya,
Prapya
having gained this Atma Tattvam as separate from Dehadi, as separate from the Karyakarana Sanghata, body, mind, sense complex. That's the phrase we use. But anything other than Atma is Anatma. That Pratak Karanam is Nididhyasanam. This Sukshmam separated from the Sukshmam Anum Dharmyam Pratakritya Atmanam Apya, taking ownership of the Atma, gaining that Atma. Gaining Atma means Atma Jnanam. Apya is, he says, Prapya. He has not finished the sentence. Having gained, having done Shravanam, then Mananam, then Nididhyasanam, and it's not a one-time effort. We know that. Having done that, the sentence continues. He is not yet finished what he is saying. All this Ittva and Labantam indicates something else to come. Having done this, something is going to happen or something will happen. So, Atmanam Apya, what happens? Samatyaha,
Samatyaha
become Vidwan.
Vidwan.
We have used many words for this at the state. Kavi, Vidwan, Dhiraha, Pandita, so many words we use. He, one who understands, one who has done Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana, who has been able to separate in a cognitive way the Atma from everything else, therefore very clear about what the Atma, nature of the Atma is. That Vidwan, Modate, is, he revels, he rejoices, because he is the very nature of that joy. Very Ananda Swarupa he recognizes as I. So there's no, not as if, I've got something I really like and therefore rejoice in it. That is Laukika. Here you recognize yourself as the very Ananda Swarupa. Therefore, when he says Bodhate, means he is Ananda. Ananda is Ananta. He is Purnaha. Because the very nature of Atma is Modaniyam. Modaniyam is the very hetu of that Ananda. That which is the very source of that Ananda. Recognizing the self as the source of all Ananda. So, Vidwan Modate, Katham Modaniyam, Harshaniyam,
Modaniyam Harshaniyam
Atmanam Labdva.
Atmanam Labdva.
If you rearrange the words, it will be easier to understand. That Vidwan, Modaniyam, Harshaniyam, Atmanam Labdva, because then it means it to continue. Modate. So that Matya Purushaha, who is now a Vidwan, Modaniyam, Harshaniyam, these are only adjectives for Atmanam. Atmanam Labdva, having gained Atmajnanam, Saha Modate. He recognizes himself as the very Swarupa of Ananda. He is no more an individual. Although the body continues, the mind continues, therefore the body will feel hungry, all that will happen. But he is no more an individual. He is Chaitanya Swarupameva. That is why we say that this is Sat Chit Anand Brahma Lakshyartham. Not the Vachyartham. Anand, Satyam, Chaitanyam, Anandam, all that have a certain word meaning. But that's not the meaning that this Vidwan grasps. This Vidwan grasps the Lakshyartham. What is the true meaning of these words from the Paramarthika standpoint? They'll all have certain meanings looked at from the Jagat. But that's not the meaning of I. Meaning of I is the meaning of these three words at the true intended meaning. Satyam Jnanam Anantam. The nature of Brahman, nature of Atma, nature of I. Having gained that, Modate. He recognizes in himself or herself as the very basis for Ananda. Therefore, no more individual. We explained something a little bit more about the soul process. And he's been tracing this jnanam, and in the process tracing Nachiketa, his readiness, his preparedness, his sharpness, his ability to of viraga bhava, all that he has also praised simultaneously. Tadedat evam vidam
Tadedadevam vidam
brahma sadma
Brahma Sadma
bhavanam
Bhavanam
nachiketasam
Nachiketasam
am prati
Tam Prati
pavritadvaram
Upavritadvaram
vivrtam
Vivrtam
abhimukhi bhutam
Abhimukhi Bhutam
yaham manye
Manye
moksharham
Moksharham
am manye
Tvam Manye
iti abhiprayah.
Iti Abhiprayah.
Tad etad, in this fashion, evam vidam. In this fashion, this Brahma Sadma. Sadma is abode. Bhavanam. We've seen this word Bhavanam earlier. Remember, we talked about Bhavanam for Yamadharma Raja. Yama Bhavanam. In the first Valli, when Nachiketa went to Yama Bhavanam. There's no physical Bhavanam really. It is just that Brahma Sadma, Brahma Bhavanam. Nachiketasam Tvam Prati Apavritadvaram. The gates are wide open. The carpet is laid out for you. Because you're ready. Vivritam Abhimukhi Bhutam iti manye. Right in front of you, only Opcharikam. There is no gate, there is no nothing. It is not like a portal you see in those movies, no? You have a portal and you're going to another world. But it is that Brahman is available to you. Because you are prepared, you're ready, you're an adhikari, fully ready. Because, hey Nachiketa, moksharham, bhavan moksham arhati, you're eligible. Tvam manye, I see you as being ready for this moksha jnana. Then only he is going to continue in the next further sections of this Upanishad. Continue to give him this jnanam, which is Atma jnanam, which is moksha jnanam. Iti, Bhashyakara says, iti abhipraya. This is how I see Yamadharmaraja saying to Nachiketa, moksharam tvam manye. I see you as being eligible, as being deserving of moksha. Beautiful. And I think we can all count ourselves into that moksharham, hopefully. And we will also study what Yamadharmaraja has to teach Nachiketa, and hopefully we'll all find the doors open to Brahma Sadma. We will see that in the next class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Hari
Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.